So let's go in and check out Neyland Gallery, one of my favorite galleries in Sun Valley. Come on. Well, I am here in Sun Valley, Idaho, in one of my favorite galleries, Neyland Gallery. And I'm also here with Robert Moore, one of my favorite artists, and he's a dear friend of mine. And last night you had the opening reception, artist reception, along with Stephen Lee Adams for the big gallery walk. And the Christmas show is always one of my favorite times of year. And how'd it go last night?
It was great. It's always good to be up here in the winter because it's so beautiful and a lot of people, and I was able to come up, bring my family and see Stephen once a year, and you. It's always a great time of year. I
know, and you're a crowd pleaser. You're just so interesting. And how did you go from living on a farm as a little boy to becoming a renowned artist?
Well, growing up on a farm, it was all physical. It was always outdoors. I'm in there with a shovel running from field to field, hauling hay. Everything was seed time and harvest, basically. So I'm outdoors and I'm responsible for the work I put in as the harvest I'll get back, and that's
work ethics.
And I wanted to be outdoors. I started pre-law, and I said, "This isn't for me. I want to be outside. Where can I be where I can be fishing or hunting and working at the same time?" And, in my naive mind, I said, "Well, I could be an artist." So I didn't know any better. So that's the direction I went, and
oh, that's wonderful.
Never stopped.
And then you went from Idaho to Los Angeles to Pasadena, and Art Center. This little Idaho boy ended up in basically Los Angeles. How did that feel?
It was awkward, to say the least. It really was culture shock. I'm sure I was a treat for the people down there, but I made it through it, and as soon as I graduated, then it was back to Idaho.
Back to Idaho, and then he's married and 6 children.
Correct.
And I am so impressed that he has been able to have this flourishing career and raise 6 wonderful children along with his beautiful wife, and on an artist's income, and that's always really impressed me. Is there a trick to that? Any tip you can share with us? How have you made that happen?
Well, the best part of that was that I didn't get married until I was 32, so I was able to take the lean times, the starving artist period of my life, and not have to drag my wife and children through those times when it was very, very lean.
So Robert, another thing that I think is really intriguing about you is you are ambidextrous and colorblind. And okay, so you're this young man from Idaho, moved to Los Angeles. You're ambidextrous, which could be a good thing or it could be challenging at times, like how do you know which hand to work with? And then you're colorblind, and your work is so colorful and so vibrant. Tell us how you work through all that.
Okay, I'll start with, after my initial teaching degree, I first got a degree from Eastern Oregon, and I went back home and taught high school for 1 year of eternity. Oh. But while I was there, I played basketball, the City League basketball, and I got undercut and broke my left wrist.
Oh.
So, but I had a show coming up, so there's a verse that I have memorized that talks about all things work together for good.
I love that verse as well.
And so I kept working, and I switched to my right hand. My left hand was in a cast, couldn't use it. So I found out during that process that my handwriting was better with my right hand. And also there are natural arcs and natural strokes that are opposing with left to right hand. So you think about a church organist, they're playing with both hands
Right.
and both feet.
Yes.
Doing 4 different things
What's
at
that
the same
called?
time. It's just
Amazing. It's amazing.
yeah. So that was just a matter of time and doing it year after year. And so that turned out to be a good thing, because when you're drawing, it helps with alignment and seeing the different sides of the form, and it just developed into something. But I think that if anybody worked at it, I think they could develop that.
And it's supposed to be really good for your brain to do that, by the way. So every summer, Neyland Gallery hosts the Plenary Exhibition. And plein air means, it's a French term for painting outside, basically, right? Kind of coined by the French Impressionists, I believe. And so that's a really fun event to come visit, and I'm even a part of it. And Robert's a crowd pleaser because he's out there with his palette knives, and he does a lot of finger painting even. It's really interesting to watch you work. But you usually have an apprentice with you as well. And as you were saying, you're a teacher at heart, and so you always seem to have a young up-and-coming artist that you're helping and training, and they're always such nice people. But they do help you, because of being colorblind, to lay out your paints in the correct order every time. Is that right? Would you elaborate on that for me, please?
It basically is because of both of those circumstances, being ambidextrous. So I've got gloves on each hand, and I'm constantly using both hands. Have a different tool. And when I'm painting, it's valuable time. So I don't want to take time to clean my brushes or wipe the knives off or grab the tool or scrape the palette. All those things take time, and it's just not my temperament.
Right.
So right now, for instance, my daughter graduated from Utah State in design, but she's my apprentice. She wanted to see what that's like.
That's so wonderful.
So she goes with me, and there's a trash can lined with caulking tubes of different colors.
Yes.
And I'll tell her, give me the secondaries. So she'll give me one at a time, and I'll put those out, squirt them out on my canvas, and then work it, and then get the knives, and then I just throw them down, and she grabs another set and wipes those, use a brush.
It's really
throw it
interesting
down.
to watch.
Yeah,
And your palette's huge. That's the other thing that's really fun watching him paint is most of us, when we're out there plein air painting, we have small pochade boxes. It's another French term. But they're a little larger than a cigar box, which was the original invention, again, from the Impressionists. They used cigar boxes to carry their paints in, and French easels. But Robert, what is your pochade box?
My pochade box is a 3-foot plate of 1/4-inch glass.
Yes.
And it's because the color blindness.
Yes.
I have to, it's like a Monopoly board. For when I was young, I played Monopoly, and I knew where Park Place was, and St. James, and the jail. And so I know
that's great. Yeah.
where the colors
Exactly.
are. But when you mix the colors, then because of the chemistry of them, sometimes one hue will dominate. So I might mix a red and a green, and that's where my daughter, my apprentice, comes in, because I'll have this neutralized hue, but I won't know whether it goes over here or over there. So she'll scrape up that neutral color and put it in the appropriate hue position. So if I need, in my mind, I'm always adding
Yes.
Orange plus purple equals neutral red, and so in the amount, the proportions, so I know where to go to get that, because my apprentice is keeping those colors separate.
That's so interesting. And sometimes you'll tap us on the shoulder and say, what color did I just paint? And I'm just always so amazed, because your work is so harmonious. You have such a unique, you definitely have almost created a school of art in a way. Your work is so unique. And it's progressed. It's been fun watching him evolve since I've known him. You're always experimenting, always changing. And your work is very abstract when you're up close. And then when you pull away, it, reads. And that's always amazing to me is all the brushwork you have going on. And who inspired you? Who do you look to for inspiration, past or present?
Well, primarily God and creation.
Oh, yes.
And then my instructor was Dan McCaw, a Southern California artist that helped me to make those initial steps into art. And I love the Russian painters, just the immediacy and the honesty of their work is very inspirational to me.
Me too. So Robert, while I have you here today, I would love you to talk about a couple of your paintings. And behind me is this magnificent piece. So what can you tell us about this? Is there a story to go with it, or did something inspire you specifically?
The aspen theme came about primarily because of the color blindness. So the white trunks of an aspen, I can, as long as there's a harmony and an order to it, I can use any color in those aspen, and it will read. So the challenge then is to get a clear separation and to simplify, yet to still have the elements clearly communicated, like a sky mass, a mountain mass, a ground plane in light, ground plane in shadow, and then the verticals. Right. So I can you pick up a rock and there's 20 different colors in it. Yes. And the eye mixes those colors. So that's how I paint. I just have many hues in there, but I will have one that will dominate and then have a natural progression, which you see everywhere when you're in nature. So as long as the tree reads as a shape, as long as the foliage ties together and separates from the background and it has an interesting silhouette, then it will work in the end. It's fabulous. It's beautiful. And you get a sense of light, I mean, that piece is glowing. And is this palette knife work primarily? This is a combination of tools. Yes, brushes, palette knife. Fingers? Yes. Sometimes he finger paints, I mentioned. Yes. Well, it's fabulous, and you're known for your aspen, really. I mean, that's one of your specialties, are aspen trees. And to a lot of people, an aspen looks black and white. And so it's really amazing when you do get out in nature and you really stop to observe. You do see the reflected light bouncing up, the different colors into the trees, and that's what you're portraying here. And you share a tip in my book, Fine Art Tips, where you teach people how to paint an aspen tree. And that was such an honor to have you in my book. And so thank you again for doing that. Thank you. Okay. So Robert, I would love you to talk about this piece. Like I said earlier, your work is so diverse. And this piece has a different technique than the other one that we just spoke about. And this is very intriguing to me because it's very complex. And it's like a patchwork quilt, or almost like you've painted with tiles. So a mosaic of color, so to speak. So tell us how you created this piece. Okay, the other piece was more, there's more wash, thinner paint, and draw the shapes and then fill them in. Whereas this one, I squirt the paint out in my head, mixing in my head. On the canvas itself? Right on, and the canvas is horizontal, not vertical. Okay. And I get the progressions of colors. I get the harmonies and the progressions. And then instead of drawing the shape first, filling it in, then when I get these progressions of beautiful color, then I corral them into a silhouette, into a shape that the brain then deciphers and says, oh, that's a flower shape, that's an ocean shape, but it's all just paint on a two-dimensional surface. So,
I love that word, corral. It is like having to corral something when you're trying to paint. So do you have a photograph you're working with? Is this plein air, or 'cause oftentimes you paint very large plein air pieces.
Yes.
So this could be a plein air piece, or if you're at home in the studio, would you be working with photographs then?
yes, with
You would,
a monitor.
On your monitor?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, so is this palette knife and brushwork then?
It's fingers, palette knife, brush, and a baker's comb.
Oh, so show us what you do. Like, what's the
Okay,
action?
so-
Give us a little.
I squirt the paint out, and then with my fingers, I'll work those progressions of color. Then the surface is not right, so I'll grab the palette knife and I'll work those surfaces, and then to get a harmonious texture and some of the feel of it with the comb, I'll take and look at my image and say, okay, there's a lost edge there, a soft edge, hard edge, and then I'll take that comb to lose the edges, or a brush to lose the edges.
So interesting. That's fabulous. Well, I'm excited for you to come back out this summer, and folks can come watch him paint at the Neyland Gallery Plenary Exhibition, which is in August, I think, the
Yes.
first weekend or so of August. And I always look forward to seeing you,
Yeah.
and you're a crowd pleaser and good friend, and it's so wonderful to have you here. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you,
I know
Lauren.
you have a drive back to Declo, is that right?
Declo, that's
Declo,
correct.
Idaho. So thank you so much, Robert.
Yeah, thank you.
Safe travels.
Thanks.